Wake up, wake up, wake up. This is your Cup of Joe podcast, and I'm your host, Joe. We chill in the coffee shop, grab your latte, your cup of coffee. If you like me, I do herbal tea. I don't know why I say cup of Joe. I guess because my name is Joe, but I don't like coffee at all. But I do like frappuccinos, though. I do like frappuccinos. But, cappuccino, whatever you have, and sit down. Let's have some great conversation with some more heavy hitters in their field. We have some vets and more vets that are some awesome thinkers in the field, because we're talking about media responsibility and who controls the media. And I have some people on here that I know can help answer your questions. I'm just the host. I'm just the guide. I know nothing about media of what I see and maybe what I study. And, you can't believe everything on the internet, right? Can you? No, you can't. You can't. So I brought in some professionals. Sidebar, a little joke. So we had a guy to come work on the organ long time ago, like 20 some years ago. And the name of an organ is called a Hammond C3 or a Hammond B3. And the C, he said the C stands for church organ. And we said, well, what does the B stand for? I'm sure you heard this before, Jay. He said, well, the B stand for professional. Is for professional. So I got professionals in the room tonight. Let's go. Tell y'all know how to throw my jokes in there. I ain't got enough my dad jokes, but that's going to talk about the media and specifically on the control and responsibility and everything. But before they talk about that, I just want to tell a little bit about themselves. I'm going to go with ladies first. And we have Miss Jade. Miss Jade, we're going to give a haircut. Yeah. Miss Jade, tell
me. Okay, so I attended Stillman College, where I studied mass communications and English. And I'm still going back now, getting a little brushed up with journalism. I spent 18 years on a 100,000 watt radio station here in Tuscaloosa. I climbed the ranks from an intern to the news and public affairs director to midday personality, and then became the brand manager of WTUG, as well as our sister station, which was a gospel station, 790 WTSK Praise 93.3. And I did newspapers, all kinds of stuff. So yeah.
I didn't know about the newspaper. I knew about the radio.
Yeah. Well, that was actually before radio. I did newspaper. I was actually the editor of Stillman's newspaper.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
Look, see, y'all heard all of that. Jade, Nicole, everyone. See, heavy hitters, y'all. These people that have the answers. And the next we have Mr. Donovan Dooley. We're going to give him a hand. Donovan Dooley. Tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, man. Donovan Dooley. It's kind of weird now being able to say I've been doing this for nearly a decade now, kind of in the media space. It's really kind of crazy to say that. But yeah, that's really what I've been doing. I've done a lot of work with a lot of different entities, ESPN, CBS News, Geo Media. I was the HBCU editor for Urban One and I1 Digital, the largest Black-owned media company in the nation. And now I'm the CEO and founder of the Dooley Foundation, my own nonprofit organization whose main mission is to create opportunities for underserved communities. So we do a lot of media work and making sure that we're communicating and highlighting messages that are impactful and that can help our community grow and thrive. So yeah, it's great to be here, Joe. It's great to be here, Jade. I'm looking forward to it.
Man, I am looking forward to it as well. So as you see, I don't know if you see the gray in my beard, but I remember with Donovan when he was like, I don't know.
Right.
Well, you 3, mine is like 10, 11, 12, whatever. And now I'm saying, and his voice is deeper than mine. And I'm like, and all of this experience at a young age. Now he ain't old, but at a young age, with all this experience, and he doesn't just have the experience you all. He knows what he is doing. some great articles he's put out, and his foundation is awesome. Mr. Donovan Dooley, everybody.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I don't want to hold y'all long because you know, I'm from the country. They say, I don't know why they say I want to belong the time. I guess they say I don't want to keep it myself, but I want to belong the time. So we gonna get to it. So, well, let me start with Donovan on this question. So, when we talk media, just you know, what for the people at home, and for me, what is media? What is that?
Yeah. Man, that's a loaded question now, Joe. What is media is very, very loaded because you kind of got to break it down in a lot of different facets, a lot of different avenues. You have your traditional media that's more so your CNNs, NBCs, ABC, CBSs. You have that traditional media form still that's still, you know, trying to work and trying to produce different things as well. You can also add broadcast on your local television stations and also maybe your local newspapers. You could add that to that list as well. And then you got kind of this new media where it's the podcast generation and social media. It's a lot of people that are out here, you know, producing content. It's a content driven type of environment now rather than that more of that traditional media sense. So that's a loaded question to kind of answer. Like, what is media? I think media is all of it. But I think you do have to distinguish between what media that you feel like is beneficial for you and which media you feel like is not. So I feel like that's kind of the answer to the question here. It's a wide variety, but you know, we never know who's going to say what nowadays. So we need to make sure that we're in who we're listening to.
Yeah. So Jay, can you jump in there with a little more insight as well?
Yes, I totally agree. So, you know, there was a day where media was considered television and radio, but most of us now, I mean, when's the last time you actually sat down and watched TV? I mean, you know, we do have our TVs, but most of us have our phones in our hands all the time. You know, if we want to know something, we're going straight on the phone, going to look things up and things like that. And so, social media and non-traditional media have really taken over as far as how people get their information now. So, you know, you still do have your traditional media forms of media, but definitely social media, podcasting, you know, avenues like that are very, very active in society today.
Okay. And you know, that's on my list of questions, this new media, because I'm gonna be honest, my first time hearing this is new media was I guess I'm considered new media, was hearing Draymond and he was kind of arguing, if not arguing, but you know, kind of talking with someone, say, hey, I'm a part of the new media. You're not, this is new media. But I'm gonna get to that, put a pin in that new media. Let's go back. So Jade, because you worked radio and all, and you kind of worked some of the traditional forms of media. Do you see? I mean, do you kind of see it staying as a mainstay, or are things changing so that maybe radio, TV, you know, newspaper may die out? I know newspaper, it's not a lot of those. You know, they close a little bit, but you know, talk about
Right.
it a little bit.
So the last company that I worked for was Town Square Media, and one of their big things was that they pushed digital. So what they did was they found a way to marry radio to social media and websites. So one of our responsibilities, in addition to being on the air and talking about things that were relevant to the community as well as, you know, just entertainment period, was that we had to blog. And what we did was we took those blogs, put them on social media, which drove people to the websites. And on the websites, of course, you have your ads and all kinds of other methods of advertising. So the industry is definitely shifting. I can't say that that traditional media will ever just completely go away, because you have your people that still go and watch the news in the evening every day. You have those that listen to the radio every day, because sometimes they don't want to pay for other avenues, which of course there are a number of different free media out there, but they're just not really willing to change. I do think that that's going to change in time, though. I think that, as the different generations progress, because, my daughter now, she doesn't really watch TV. She'll go to a streaming service and pull up what she wants to see. So I do think that as the generations progress, you'll definitely see the shifting from traditional media more to the social media, new media, things that are right in your hand, at the time you want it.
So let me throw another question at you, Jay, before I get to Donovan.
Mhm.
What are some people's unwillingness to shift? Is it monetary, or is it just they, you know,
Tradition.
because I saw the place you used to work, you said they shifted to, but there are a lot of just went out of business. So that's like
Right.
just tradition. Just I don't want to change.
Tradition, definitely. You still have some people that get newspapers. Very few, but so a lot of companies, the newspaper companies, are going out of business. That's one of the ways that the Tuscaloosa Thread here in town, most people follow the Tuscaloosa Thread. That was developed because our market was identified as one of those where our newspaper wasn't really reaching the masses the way it did before. So you'll see a lot more of that.
So Donovan, how did that affect? I mean, I know you've been in the media for a while, but as it was kind of changing, you were in college, if I'm not correct, like studying this. So how did it affect studying it, coming into like a different world? Because you still grew up, pretty much towards the tail end of '90s and stuff like that. So you know some of these things. How did
Yeah.
that affect you, got learning and kind of going into your thing?
Yeah, I would say it changed everything completely because one thing that we had to do, especially during my studies at North Carolina A&T, the best HBCU in the world, I should say. But in my studies there at North Carolina A&T, one of the things that we really had to learn was to adjust on the fly and adjust rapidly. One of the things that they were really teaching us when we were studying was you basically had to be a jack of all trades in a lot of senses. Like you had to be able to know how to write publication. You have to be able to know how to write articles. You have to be able to know how to do social media. You have to be able to know how to stand up in front of the camera and potentially do different things of that nature as well. And also be really, really adept in content strategy as well too, because that's one of the things that we're seeing actually prevail in the myriad of different forms. Where if you know how to appeal to an audience, wherever that may be, that could be on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, even or even in your more traditional forms, you're going to be able to make yourself valuable and be able to bring yourself more value, be able to make yourself more competitive in the job force. So that's one of the things that they really were kind of instilling in us because the landscape of media had been changing rapidly, like probably year over year since like what 15 years ago, Jade, or something like that. Like it's been rapid
Absolutely.
change and rapid movement. So you needed to be able to think on your feet and be on your toes and be able to make something, out of yourself in this field that is going to allow you to have some sense of sustainability. So that's kind of what we were taught growing up, and that's kind of where we are now, trying to make the most of it in that way.
So Donovan,
Can I jump in on that?
go ahead.
So actually, I was in radio for about 15 years, and then I went back to school. And I went back because, of course, like I said before, I had done journalism some, and I had done some radio, but I wanted to know more about just the full scope of media. So just like Donovan said, you did get to see, how you have to adjust to so many different things. Like being in radio, we had an incident once where we took part in this big community thing and our Christmas tree was stolen. So we had to, the news asked us for an interview. I had to know how to stand in front of the television camera, and to do an interview, even though I was a radio person. Generally, nobody sees us, unless we go out to do something in the public, you're in this little room by yourself for the whole day. Well, I had to quickly adjust. But then also, again, I had to take my content that I would be talking about on the air, write a blog about it, find a picture to go to it, so that it goes on the website, and then find a headline that was SEO, search engine optimized, so that we can capture the attention of our listeners for the different forms of social media that we use. Like, with Facebook, it has a totally different audience from Twitter. Twitter has a totally different audience to Instagram. So you have to find that headline that you can adjust that will fit to, the different audience. And that's the one big thing about the different forms of media, is knowing who your audience is and knowing what they like, so that you can give them what they like that will keep them coming to you.
That's some that's good stuff, because that led to the question I was going to ask Donovan is, so what were some of the things that you did to adjust to say, hey, this is how I'm going to be successful in this and stay in this form of media that I'm in, or this, in this line?
Yeah, actually, I think that a lot of that had to do with me just being able to kind of look at, like Jay was mentioning before, look at the target audience I'm trying to reach, and really try to see like what's going to be the most effective way to actually reach that audience. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the companies I started when I was actually at North Carolina A&T, we actually were able to serve basically that whole Greensboro area, more specifically the campus, and providing news to a lot of different students while I was there. And so one of the ways and one of the things that we learned early on was, for whatever reason, our age group or my age group was not trying to go to a website and look at all of that different information on the website. So one of the things that we did to adjust was we ended up doing a whole lot of organic video of being able to produce that on social media, whether that be Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. And we saw a whole lot of our engagement really just kind of blow up in a lot of ways, because now we were bringing that organic style content to our different consumer and to our different viewer as well. So that's just one of the ways that we've really been taught to adjust. And even nowadays too, like we're seeing, Joe, like with you with the podcast and a whole lot of the podcast generation, now we're going back in to radio, radio style, and also being diverse in those different forms as well too, of having, you're going to have this on Spotify, have this on Apple Music, you're going to have the video clip on YouTube. So you're still adjusting and still learning and still growing. That's one of the things that kind of makes it interesting as a field, is that you never really stop growing in it, because as technology evolves, you're going to have to evolve too, or else you're going to be out of luck. So that's just kind of what it is. And that's why I would say it really helped me.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because going back to something that Jay said, you said your daughter doesn't watch. My daughter doesn't either. And she gets like news, TV show, inspiration from Instagram Reels. That's
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
but really that's our fault too, because that's all she's allowed to have right now. Like, you guys won't let me have TikTok yet. I said no. But anyway, everything comes from that. Whereas I do it all: Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Spill. Haven't done Threads, but all of it I've done. But it's interesting because I'll get my news from Twitter more so, because it seems like they break stuff first. I don't know how, but the new media stuff. And then Facebook is just to say hello to people that I haven't seen for a long time. But there's still things on there, but it's a little bit later than than Twitter. So man, I can listen. I'm on a time crunch, so I'm gonna move ahead with this. So we've already kind of discussed this new media, an extension of traditional media, if you will. What intrigued me about this subject of media is the responsibility piece and the control piece. So let's just start right there first with who controls media. Like, let's go to Jay. Where's the control come from? Is it us as people? Do we control what we see, or is there some ominous being that controls what's being seen, or is it, is it capitalism or what? Just talk to us a little bit.
I would say it's a nice blend. Um, because man, I hate to say it like this, but the media is controlled by money. So, well, when it comes to traditional media is controlled by money, and some social media is too, believe it or not. You have your TikTokers and people that make reels and stuff, and people are willing to embarrass themselves to the highest degree if they feel like it's going to get them viewers and they'll be paid from it, you know? And so when it comes down to traditional media, your advertising dollars, um, the companies are really trying to go after the advertising dollars. So whomever is their target audience, then that's who they're going to reach out to. That's who is really controlling. I hate to say it like that, but it's the
I,
truth.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
the truth. Yeah. So, when you have, okay, hypothetically, well, no, this is not hypothetical at all. When you have your mainstream urban radio, a lot of times the music they play is not isn't it's not positive. Let's say that it's not positive. A lot of it isn't. Some of it is. Some of it glorifies more of the derogatory aspects of life. But when you see the younger generation bop into it and they're buying concert tickets, then it's like, oh, this is what they like. Whereas, you know, my generation and older, we're into the more soul music. You don't find many crooners anymore this day. So we kind of lean more toward the older music that they're not making anymore. And that's how you have your urban adult contemporary. Because we're not into the whole running the streets and going where everybody else is going. We want to feel good. We want to have music that uplifts us, that makes us fall in love, that tells us we can make it. Everybody goes through a struggle, but you're going to come out, that kind of stuff. So it really depends on the advertisers, to be completely honest.
So we go to Donovan. So
Yeah.
So does that mean that maybe there are some people that may pay a little more to shift a message, or you know.
It kind of depends. It kind of depends. So it's like going back and piggybacking off some things that Jay was saying. Money, like everything in America, is definitely the central force here. We live in a capitalistic society. You're not going to be able to escape that. Money is going to be the root of what everything is centered around. With saying that, though, I do believe that, especially when it comes to the average viewer, the average consumer of media, they don't really understand how much power they actually have when it comes to actually creating and dictating the type of content that they're going to listen to. And so I'll give you an example, right? You can look at this through new media, you can look at this through traditional media, whatever it may be. Whatever that individual person is logging into, is looking at, is viewing, is consuming the most, the only thing that media entity is going to do is show you some of that same content. So basically,
Absolutely.
the way media works, and you can look at this through traditional forms, look at this through new media, it basically serves as a mirror. And so when you view content or you're engaged in a certain level of content, the algorithm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or the decision makers at Fox, NBC, CBS, they're looking at all that data and they're like, okay, this got viewed X amount of time. Let's say this got viewed by 2 million viewers when we produce this type of content. We're going to do more of this because, like Jay mentioned before, they got to appeal to the advertiser. Same thing with new media. You know what I mean? So they got to bring that money in. They got to bring their revenue in. And a lot of that is through advertising. And so they want to get as many eyeballs on the specific content as they can. And so a lot of people don't necessarily realize that you have a lot of control on what you think the traditional media is producing and what you think new media is producing. So when you have that kind of dynamic there, it creates a mirror, like I said before, because if you want to say, hey, we want positive content now from our media sources, well, the consumer has to now reflect that, and they have to reflect that not only in how they view and how they engage, but also in some ways through their dollars as well too, because you have a lot of people that are now going to this subscription based type of media as well too, where you can actually kind of pay for the content that you want to see. So that's one of the things I always say about it too, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. They think that there's this henchman that's really controlling media in a lot of ways, and we know that in these companies, especially a lot of them are ran by majority white individuals as well. There can be a disconnect in the way that media is covered, and especially when it comes to underserved communities. But at the end of the day, if the numbers are reflecting what stories that people want to see or what content that people want to engage with, and so if the numbers reflect positive, I best believe there's a whole lot of media entities out here that are going to produce positive, they're going to produce more positive content. But however, what we're seeing, especially looking on the backside of things, a whole lot of people out there love negative content. They do not like, they love that negative content, like I said before. And that's one of the reasons why you see a whole lot of media entities, whether that be new or traditional, still continuing to produce that. So that's why I'll say I think that people do not necessarily understand how much power they have in controlling the media that they actually consume and what's actually being shown to them.
Yeah, because I look at like they had Essence Festival, and there was a controversy with India Ari and some of the artists there and how it has changed, but there is only reflecting what people like, because she said it was more sexual type content. I mean, yeah, they had like twerking contests or something like that. And Essence Festival is not really known for that, because they're immediately like, hey, babe, we need to go one day, 1 year. And she's like, after hearing that, she's like, nah, it's gonna be that. Nah, we're not going. And I was like, so, some things have changed. And I also thought about what you said about some of the new media, because not only you have Fox, but you have these kind of off, these kind of Fox created type. You got like Newsmax and was it OAN, and what makes me nervous about that is they have enough people out there that loves that type of content.
Absolutely.
I cannot watch a Newsmax. I can't watch an OAN, but I've been on jobs where I'm a teacher and I walk by the room and that's what they're watching. as they, that's what some of the kids are watching. So I was going to ask, what is the responsibility of those in the media? But I want to go to the listener. Then how are we to get better content? Because the negative content, it is my problem is how it's reflected in society. It's kind of like, it's almost like a never-ending cycle. So you have radio, you have, especially in the urban markets, you have murder, kill, pimping, blah, blah, blah. Then that murder, kill, pimping happens, drugs, and then it's like never ending. Whereas a listener, who, what, where, how do we kind of combat it? Let me start with Jaden. You can jump in.
Well, like Donovan said earlier, talking about the algorithms, that's one of the first ways to combat the things you don't want to see, is to stop looking at it. Stop looking for it. I will never forget. I wrote an article before about a lot of positive things, and they never get hit. But there was a lawmaker in Missouri, I think it was, that proposed taking steak and seafood off of food stamps. So I got that article, just wrote a quick, steak and seafood to be removed from food stamps with a question mark. That thing went viral. I
remember.
mean, it was ridiculous because so many, I mean, and people went nuts over it. They can't do this and all this stuff. You know, if you write an article about somebody being murdered or there was a robbery, those things fly into it, you know. But you talk about how you can get an SBA loan to get your business started, nothing, crickets, you know. So it really amounts to not looking at the things that don't appeal to you. You'll see on different articles where somebody might make a comment, a negative comment, and somebody else will respond to that person's comment. You could have kept scrolling. If you don't like it, why are you here? That is a very valid argument. If you don't like it, don't stop on it. Don't watch it. Don't share it. Just keep scrolling. Don't even comment. Don't make a negative comment, because in that it's showing that you're reacting to this. So of course that goes into the algorithm or whatever, and so that's the content that you will continuously receive. So the responsibility for all of us that want to see something different is to do something different.
That's a bar right there.
Yeah,
Drop the bar.
you gotta let that one breathe. You gotta let that
Yeah,
one breathe.
yeah, gotta let's sit with that one for a minute. But Donovan, jump in there, man. What do you say?
Yeah, that's actually funny, Jay. People want their surf and turf, man. They want their steak and shrimp, man.
Right.
That's hilarious. But I really think, though, in addition to that, everything Jay said so eloquently, I think also too is incumbent upon people to actually not be satisfied and be complacent with some of the news that they're already getting. Like, for example, Joe, you mentioned Newsmax, OAN, Fox. There's a market there for that type of people, for those types of news media, because they're serving the type of people that it really just wants to get told what it is that they think is already going on in the world, or that they think is happening. I think a lot of people nowadays really need to find ways to search out what's the actual truth. You know what I mean? Like, what's actually going on for real, and not just what is already kind of gift wrapped to us or branded in a certain way that's going to be palatable to us. Because I think that's where you see a lot of people having a disconnect as well too. It's like, we're straying so far away from what's the actual truth in the middle, because we have people that are all on these different sides now, because they're engaging in that type of content that just basically is like it's a funnel for their own beliefs. You know what I mean? But we really got to get back to looking for the truth, finding the truth, and trying to diagnose for ourselves what we think is beneficial to us and is going to allow us to survive and thrive in this new age.
That is, yes, sir. Yeah, that's good. So I have a question for your age group, Donovan. Well, you get into the 30 though.
I got
no, you're not even close
enough there yet.
You ain't up there yet. You know what? I put you. I'm sorry. I put you up there with the twins. My bad. You with the yeah. But so how do we, as a responsible media, because you all are responsible media persons, and how do we then connect? I'll give you an example. I was teaching and we were talking media, and it was a young white lady, and I don't do TikTok. I was like, why? That TikTok, that's where they that's where they trafficking ring. That's how they do it. I was like, okay, really? How, I was like, oh, I do TikTok. What do you? And in my mind, I'm trying to, break all the barriers of okay, let me really listen and see if she's. Until she said no, because that's what Trump said. I'm like, huh? I said, but where did you find that though? I said, can you send me that article? She could never send me that article and didn't want to. She said, well, that's just what I believe. And I know you all seen so many of the people that will go to some of these rallies or even go to different places, ask questions, and then ask them, how do you know that? Well, I just know, reminds me of my uncle, rest in peace. You try to dig, him. He said, because I know. And that's how a lot of people are. But I'm seeing a lot of young people as well that are ignorant to the truth. And I'm like, that's not right. That ain't, you know, how do we connect it? Is there a disconnect in how media is presented to them? Is there a way that we can, you know, it will take some of the articles that Jay was talking that wrote? How can that be more palatable to them? Yeah, I probably messed it up. Y'all forgive me. I'm gonna cut to young people, 20s and the teens.
Yeah, I think the way that it's packaged, number one, is probably going to be the way to be able to reach that in a different way as well, because we know the misinformation crisis right now is crazy, considering of how many just social media apps there are and people not willing to do the fact checking. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. But yeah, I think going back to it, I think it's the way that it's packaged is going to have to be in a way where people can easily identify, like, hey, there's maybe something fishy with this video that I just saw, you know what I mean? Or there may be something that's not all the way correct with this reel I just watched or this TikTok I just watched or something of that nature. I think there needs to be a pristine focus on fact checking, on discovering misinformation, of really delving deep into making sure that people have the options to be educated in the right way. Because right now, what we're seeing, especially on social media, and especially under my age group and younger, especially when you start going into Gen Z, it is very easy for people to get in these echo chambers of they're only hearing what is basically boosting up their beliefs. You know what I mean? And those beliefs, they could be true, or they could be right, or they could be dead wrong. You know what I mean? But you're still getting that huge echo chamber that's going to make you feel like you're right, even though you may not be right. So I think we need to actually allocate a lot of resources to that. And I think it's also incumbent on us as the consumer as well, too, to once again support those media entities that we feel like are doing a good job. You know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of the actionable item here, is to make sure that, hey, if you know of a media site that's doing good work, subscribe to them. You know what I mean? Donate to them, or at the very least, just support their content. You know what I mean? Give them a view, give them a listen. Give them a look on the article or whatever, and you're gonna help put more of that positive content, or at least that fair content, into the world.
That's good. So it's really incumbent, especially if your teens, is incumbent upon the parents to kind of.
I would say as well too, because we know that when you're talking about adolescents, like there's been numerous studies on this where the brain just isn't fully developed, and so they're engaging and they're getting in all this content, and it's formulating their thought processes on a daily basis. So I do think it's incumbent upon adults to really teach their kids how to critically think. You know what I mean? A lot of kids don't know how to critically think. Actually, a lot of adults don't know how to critically think these days. You know what I mean? So you have to really understand like what you're watching and be able to question it. You know what I mean? I think it all comes down to that. Like Jay knows, like a whole basis and really the core function of media itself and journalism itself is to question things. And that's not just for journalism professionals, that's for people in the everyday world as well too. If you want to find out more information, you got to start questioning stuff, because everything that's getting served to you on the silver platter isn't always good. You know what I mean? So you need to be able to make sure that you can go ahead and advocate for yourself and be able to make sure that you're listening and looking into content that's good for you.
See, now that people was another bar too. You have to start questioning, because that's with this age of it's always been capitalism. Capitalism has always been there. People look at that silver platter, I think, more than what's on it. It could be rotting me, but man, I got the silver platter. I'm good, and I'll throw a false story out there. And that's the thing that frustrates me about TikTok or Twitter, especially those mediums. That they'll put a fake story out there. One guy said the queen was dead and the queen was living like 2 or 3 months. She died later. I'm like, and I'm like, what possessed you to to do that. So this just does that make y'all's job harder? Yes, to navigate. I guess this new any of y'all to navigate this new media with a lot, because there's a lot of it's not just negative. It's just not truthful, and there's a lot of that out there, so any one of y'all, how do you navigate that to is there a code where I'm correct but I'm not going, how to correct someone on that, or you just come out and say, hey bruh, sis, that was wrong? How does that happen? Anyway,
Donovan, you can have it.
Yeah, man. I think it's definitely difficult. Lord knows, like, even some of my friends, they'll send me certain stuff. They'll send it to me on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever. And I'm just like, if it seems too outrageous to be true, I would say 95% of the time it is. You know what I mean? And it's really, I think this is some of the actionable items that people can do. Like, find like a trusted source that you actually, trust, that is not going to give you information that's going to have falsehoods in it, it's going to have lies in it, and things of that nature, like AP News or something like that, where there's a big story that's going down, then you can go and cross-check it there. You know what I mean? But another problem that we're having too is, like, a whole lot of people on social media, especially, they're actually creating these fake accounts that look similar to trusted media accounts and things of that nature, and spreading misinformation and whatnot just to get people. So I always tell people, if it looks like it's too outrageous to be true, 95% of the time it is. So please go and do a cross check somewhere else. If you cross check it and it's not there on the other site, more than likely that's a fake news account. You know what I mean? Or it hasn't been verified enough for you to be able to be confident in saying, like, hey, I can stand on this. You know what I mean? And so, like, there's some times where people are like talking about LeBron James threw soup on his whole team or something like that, and folks are sending that, and I'm just like, now, does that make sense?
Right.
So just being able to critically think, I think, goes back to that as well too. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Jay, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, like Donovan said, it is very important to not only think critically, but to fact check. I actually check the AP every morning. I get up in the morning, AP and Reuters. Those they seem to be less biased than a lot of other sources. So just knowing which news options you have available that, oh, looking for something that is not biased, looking for just the facts. Who, what, when, where, why, how. That's all you really need as far as, content or what happened, or, things like that. So other than it, yeah, I totally agree with Donovan.
Oh, good deal. Because we only do, my wife loves to watch BBC to get the worldview. And most of the times it's not a bias there. They're just reporting what they report. They report better on the USA than sometimes we report on ourselves. And what is it? It's not Al Jazeera is not there anymore, right? Is it all, did they get bought out by somebody? I'm not sure. I don't know if y'all know Al Jazeera TV. But we used to, that we don't do the other network. We don't really do CNN, Fox, or anything like that, because there's a little spin a lot of times, and you have way too much of that to kind of wade through. So with your, I'm gonna go to Jay with this question, and then I'm gonna give it to y'all, and we're gonna because my mind is just like, bro, I'm looking at my phone like, ooh, there's another question. But no, I'm not gonna hold y'all for a long time. So how does, like, having, is there some undoing that possibly needs to happen with so much of the misinformation from because you've been in radio and you've seen trends come and go, and you've seen how it affects people. I guess let's maybe backtrack. One, is it really affecting people where they can't really distinguish a lot of truth from fiction? And then two, if that's the case, is there an undoing that needs to happen, and would that process take a while, if you understand?
Absolutely. I don't know if the undoing can happen though. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are not able to recognize the real from the fake. You know, I would get all kinds of calls. Did so and so die? I saw it online. It's like because social media has become so prevalent with sharing of information. We're in the information society. So because of that, I'm not sure that it can be undone. Right now, everybody has a platform, you know? And so I mean it definitely, there is some undoing that needs to be done, but whether or not that can happen, I don't know.
Mm. Donovan, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Jay was saying, not even just with social media. When you start talking about AI coming into the picture as well, too, like
Yes.
that's gonna really, really impact a lot of people, and then what's real versus fake. And one of the beautiful things about social media is everybody has a voice. But one of the worst things about social media is everybody has a voice. So
Exactly.
I mean, it's a catch-22 always. You know what I mean? So like I said, I mean, people just need to be vigilant about the things that they're consuming, question things, and yeah, go with your gut on what you feel is correct, and make sure you're cross-referencing those different things. Make sure you're cross-referencing those different things and making sure that you can have something that you can stand on.
Well, that's a doors of the church is open moment. I mean, you gotta close it out. Is there anything else you would love to add, Miss J, to this conversation, kind of to close out, as you know?
No, Donovan said it. It's no sense in me coming behind him trying to say anything else. He did it.
Well, I would hope that there are, one of the things that got me. So, a lot of people don't know this about me. So before I was going into mass communication and all of that in college, before I got kicked out. And they also changed the program on me. It was called RTF, Radio, Television, Film, because I am into media. I watch TV shows and news and movies really just to, not as just a normal consumer. I look for a lot of things that's going on, and what really kind of got me back interested into it is, and I'm thinking I may even go back to school. I don't know. We'll see. But my daughter is wanting to. She said she wants to be behind the scenes person, and we had this talk about media and some of the Instagram reels that she saw, and and she's a critical thinker. She's like a mom. She's very, very smart, and she, just having conversation with her, my concern is where media and where television, where film is going. But like you all said, you brought up some great points. We control it. I think they give to us what we consume, and sometimes they create it and see if we're gonna bite, and we bite, and they just give us more. And I believe it takes more people like Jay, more people like Donovan, soon to be my daughter, because she says she wants to make a difference in media and wants to make a difference in film and things of that nature, getting into it. So whoever is listening out there, my parting shot is we need more people making the decisions. We need more people behind the scenes that can say, no, we're not going to put this out here, because the people will bite. Let's give them something more nutritious to bite. And, you know, if you're like me, you love your cupcakes, but you can't do them because they really, really hurt you. I can't do
Right.
like that. So you want to, you know, change up the diet. And I thank you all for being in media to help hopefully change up the diet, change up what people can consume. Jay Donovan, it was a
Okay.
pleasure having you all in the coffee shop. And I think my coffee maker has gone off and is still going off. And I have to, that means that the time has ended. Again, thank you all for coming into the coffee shop, The Cup of Joe. And again, I am Joe, I'll be your host, and I will see you all later.
All right. Thanks for having us.